My son turned 23 this year. His best friend Sam turned 23 the same month. Same job out of school, same $58,000 salary, same $22,000 saved after 2 years of work. Tom bought a condo, Sam kept renting. I ran the real numbers on where this puts each of them at year 10, year 20. And the number that worried me most as a father, not as the guy who does this math for a living, shows up before the 3-minute mark. There's also one thing Tom did in year 1 that most 23-year-old buyers never do. I'll get to that too. Every rent versus buy video treats this like an abstract debate. It stopped being abstract the day my son wired his savings to a closing table. I ran his numbers exactly the way I'd run anyone else's. No favors, no rounding in his direction. Stick around for what he did with his first paycheck after that. It's the reason this story doesn't end the way I was afraid it would. I'm John. On this channel, I run the real numbers on the financial decisions people around me are actually making. This time, it's my own son's. No script, no finance background, just what the math says. If that's useful to you, subscribe. New video every 2 days. No filler. Let's get back to it. Tom and Sam have been best friends since middle school. Same college, same entry-level salary out of it. Same habit of putting a little aside every check. They picked that neighborhood on purpose, close enough to both of their jobs that neither one factored a car payment into any of this. At 23, they're both renting the same kind of studio, both earning $58,000 a year, both sitting on $22,000 in savings. Then a small one-bedroom condo near the subway goes up for $220,000. Tom buys it. He didn't ask me for a dime. Puts down 11,005%, which means he's stuck paying mortgage insurance until he builds real equity. 30-year loan, 6.9%. Principal and interest alone, $1,376 a month. Add property tax, condo insurance, the PMI, and money set aside for repairs, and Tom's real monthly cost to own that condo is $2,016. Sam signs another lease at $1,650 a month and puts his $22,000 into a total market index fund instead. The advice I grew up hearing was, don't buy until you have 20% down, full stop. Tom ignored that completely, waiting to save 20%. $44,000 instead of $11,000 at his savings rate would have taken him past his 26th birthday, and that target kept moving as the price crept up along the way. By then, on this same appreciation curve, that condo isn't $220,000 anymore. It's closer to $240,000. The safe advice would have cost him more than the PMI ever did. Add up every dollar of PMI he'll ever pay before it drops off, and it's still less than a single year of the price growth he would have missed waiting. Here's the part that worried me as his father before it worried me as the numbers guy. Closing costs on a $220,000 condo run 2 to 5%. Lender fees, title insurance, escrow, that's another $7,000. Between the down payment and closing, Tom walked into that condo having spent almost his entire savings account. $18,000 of his $22,000 gone day one. He owns something, but he also has almost no cushion left if anything breaks. There's a version of this story where Tom has to sell fast. A job move, a breakup, anything. If he sold that condo 18 months in, after 6% in agent commissions on both ends, he'd walk away with less than he put down. Owning only wins if you can actually wait it out. That's not a footnote. At 23, 3 years from now can look completely different than it does today. Here's the number I told you about at the start. Month 1 of that mortgage. $1,202 of Tom's payment goes to the bank as interest. $175 pays down the loan. Add $130 of PMI, money that protects the bank, not him. And Tom's real year 1 cost is $1,842 a month, building almost zero equity. Sam is paying $1,650 in rent. Renting is throwing money away survives because it sounds true. In year 1, Tom is throwing away more. Fast forward 3 years, Tom has paid roughly $72,500 total. Only about $6,900 of that reduced his loan, but the condo has appreciated to around $240,000. His equity, about $37,000. Real, but locked inside walls he can't touch without selling. Sam, meanwhile, has paid about $59,400 in rent. His original $22,000 plus the $366 a month he's investing instead of covering PMI and a bigger payment has grown to roughly $42,500. At year 3, Sam is actually ahead. In cash he can touch tomorrow. If you're a parent who's watched your own kid make a call like this, hit like. It helps this reach more people who need the honest version. Back to the numbers. Here's the pivot, and it's the part that actually kept me up. I didn't watch this debate wondering who wins. I watched it wondering whether my son had left himself any room to fail. That's the real question underneath all of this. Sam's strategy only works if he actually keeps investing that $366 every month, including the month the market drops 30%. Most renters his age don't. They upgrade the apartment. They spend the gap. Tom's mortgage forces the saving whether he feels like it or not. Nobody skips a mortgage payment because the market looked scary. That forced discipline is worth more than any spreadsheet admits. But it came at a cost I can't ignore as his dad. He's 23, with almost no emergency fund. That's the trade nobody puts on the thumbnail. I actually asked Sam about this on camera. 18 months in, the market dropped hard. The kind of week where every headline says get out. He told me he had the app open, his thumb over the sell button, for about 10 minutes. What stopped him wasn't discipline. He'd forgotten his own password and had to reset it, and by the time he logged back in, he'd cooled off. That's not a strategy. That's luck wearing a business suit. And it's exactly the risk his plan carries that Tom's mortgage doesn't. One more thing that isn't in most people's spreadsheet. Rates moved. In year 5, when they dipped under 6%, Tom refinanced, paid about $2,000 in fees to do it, dropped his rate by nearly a full point, and knocked around $120 off his monthly payment. Money that went straight into extra principal instead. That single decision is part of why year 10 looks better than the original schedule would have predicted. By year 10, Tom's condo is worth around $296,000. His mortgage balance has dropped to about $179,000. His equity near $117,000. Somewhere around year 8, his loan finally dropped low enough to drop the PMI, an extra $130 back in his pocket every month, right when it started to matter. Sam's portfolio has grown to somewhere around $110,000 to $120,000. The two of them are now practically tied. One caveat here, his payment never moved, means principal and interest, not the whole bill. Condo fees and property tax crept up the whole time, from around $350 a month to closer to $550 by year 20. Still nowhere near what Sam's rent did, but it's not perfectly flat either. By year 20, Tom's condo is worth close to $400,000. His equity sits around $280,000, and his base mortgage payment hasn't moved once in 20 years. Sam's portfolio is close behind, around $280,000 to $290,000, but his rent has climbed to nearly $3,000 a month, with no ceiling and 10 more years left on Tom's fixed payment before Tom's housing costs drop again. Here's the thing I promised you earlier. A month after closing, with almost nothing left in savings, Tom set up an automatic transfer from every single paycheck into a separate account. Money that never touches his checking. Not a lot, $80 a week. But by the time year 1 ended, that empty safety net wasn't empty anymore. That's not in the mortgage math. That's just him being smarter about this than I was at his age. I bought my first place around Tom's age too. My first mortgage payment bounced for insufficient funds by $4. I remember standing in the bank on my lunch break, mortified. What I didn't expect decades later is how different it feels watching someone else, my own kid, take that same risk. I wasn't scared for myself back then. I'm scared for him now, a little. Not because the math is wrong. Because at 23, there's no cushion if the roof leaks in year 1. I never told him any of this while he was deciding. He didn't ask, and I didn't want my own fear talking him out of something that might actually work. So here's the honest split, and it's what I'd tell any parent watching their kid do this. The kid who had $4,000 to his name the week after closing now has $117,000 in equity. That gap is real. Buying wins clearly if you're staying put 7+ years, if you've still got a real emergency fund after closing, and if your local price-to-rent ratio is under 20. Renting wins clearly if you might move in 3 to 5 years, if your career needs flexibility, or if buying would wipe out your safety net the way it nearly wiped out Tom's. One more honest caveat, because I'd want someone to tell me this if it were my money. Every number in this video assumes Tom holds that condo the whole time and Sam actually invests instead of spending. Change either assumption and this whole comparison flips. That's not a flaw in the math. That's the whole point of it, and there's a moment coming for both Tom and Sam that changes everything you just watched. The day their money starts earning more than their paycheck does. I ran what actually happens the instant either of them crosses $1 million in net worth, and it flips this whole rent versus buy debate on its head. That's next video. If watching me run these numbers for my own kid gave you a clearer way to think about your own decision, subscribe. I break one of these down every 2 days. Real math, no agenda. Tell me below, Team Tom, Team Sam, or are you the parent watching from the sidelines like me? I read every comment. See you in the next one.